Now we will begin with the reading of the lesson, the fun they had. The story begins with Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary on the page headed 17 May 2157. She wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book." It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, you know. And then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it and that it had when they read it the first time. So when we read this paragraph again, we just come to know that these children belong to the future age, that is the year 2157, wherein they will not have any printed book, but they will have a book which will be there on a screen, and the letters will be flashing by. They will be just moving. They will not be standing still, because the statement which they make is, when they turn back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it for the first time. "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you are through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. Our television screen must have had a million of books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away." "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. So Tommy was 13 and Margie was 11. And they are the students depicted in the story by Isaac Asimov of 2157, when they will have the telebooks. And the book which they get, the pages were yellow and crinkly. Crinkly means with many fold or lines. It means that the book was very, very old. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house," he pointed without looking because he was busy reading. "In the attic." Now, attic is a space just below the roof used mostly as a storeroom. If you just recall the movie Harry Potter series, you must have noticed that his uncle and aunt were not treating him properly, and he was given a very small space just below the staircases, and that particular space is known as the attic. Sometimes it is on the below the roof also, in the upper part of the houses. Basically it is used for storing the things. What's it about? School. Margie was scornful. School? What's there to write about school? I hate school. So she was very scornful, like very contemptuous, showing you like think something is worthless. Like she really hated school, as you can just see, and you can just understand from her response. Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse, until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. The county inspector is that person who used to just gear up or pace it up or pace down the mechanical teacher. Basically the person who used to repair and used to mend the problems, whatever comes in the mechanical teacher, because at the end it was running on technology. It was not something which is the way I had the teacher in my time, a man or a woman, or you people have the teacher as a man or a woman, no physical teacher. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he would not know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated the most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code. They made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. So there were some slots in which they were supposed to put their homework or assignment, and that is the slot which really she hated. And she really had learned all the punch codes when she was 6 years old. And in no time, the mechanical teacher used to calculate the marks and used to just give it to her. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted Margie's head again. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping that they would take the teacher altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. So here what the county inspector had to say, that the girl's fault is not there. The mechanical teacher's geography sector was little geared up as per her age. And that is why she was not able to put up the things correctly. But her progress is quite satisfactory according to the county inspector. But Margie really was disappointed, and she just thought that maybe for a day or two, maybe the mechanical teacher would be away, so she would just live her life because she really hated the mechanical teacher. So she said to Tommy, "Why would you anyone write about school?" Like, she hated the school so much, and she just thought that why would anybody would write about school? Tommy looked at her with superior eyes. "Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago." He added loftily. Now, loftily here is in a very superior way because he just had some air to show to her that he knows more than Margie, pronouncing the word carefully, "centuries ago." Margie was hurt. "Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago." She read the book over his shoulder for a while, then said, "Anyway, they had a teacher." Now this picture you can see, they had a teacher, she says, and in the bubble, a picture where a teacher, a man, is teaching to a group of students the way we have our classroom setups. Sure, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher, it was a man. So for them, a regular teacher was somebody who is a regular for them. And in 2157, the regular teacher would be a mechanical teacher. But here, normal of the usual kind, but it was a man. So man was unusual kind to them because these children are depicted in 2157. A man? How could a man be a teacher? Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions. A man isn't smart enough. Sure, he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. He knows almost as much, I betcha. Now, betcha is a casual way of kind of saying, I bet you. In fast speech, I'm sure that my father is as much smart as my teacher is. Margie wasn't prepared to dispute that. She said, I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me. She did not want to kind of have any kind of disagreement to it. So she just said that I cannot have any kind of with a strange man in my house to teach me. Tommy screamed with laughter. You don't know much, Margie. The teachers did not live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there and all the kids learned the same thing. Sure, if they were the same age.